Hello, hello, here we go. It's the Cop-Out Podcast.
Press the button then as you're talking, so sorry, mate. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Cop-Out Podcast, and it's Jay and Mick on the show for the first time in a long time. Everyone's been looking at Mick's beautiful face, and he's finally dragged me back on. So, Mick, I'm so sorry for leaving you in the lurch. Mate, how are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, it's Alex said. It's been a long time. I just thought we need to get back on one here because every time I'm doing one, in the comments, it's like, "Where's Jay? Is Jay gone missing? Is he alive?" And whatever. It's like, yeah, he's still alive, but he's busy with his projects and his work. So yeah, we're back again. Back again for another one.
I know I've WhatsApped you anyway, but you know, kudos on the Paul Smith stuff. It's been really good feedback, and then you've obviously had the good video with Neil last week as well for transfers and stuff. And I know you've got 2 more shows coming up this week with 2 very special guests as well, haven't you? So
yeah, got one on Wednesday. That's with Paul Ghost, Liverpool Echo legend, and then on Friday we've got Craig Hanan from Anfield Rock, which I don't think we've had on since we had him on the.
Since we're just audio only.
Audio only days, yeah, and then had a bit of a mix up with the Craig either hung up on us or his connection went.
Yeah,
we'll have Craig
clear that up on Friday.
Clear it up on Friday. See what he's got to say for himself.
Absolutely, mate. But yeah, I've been loving the transfer shows that you've been doing, Mick. I think they've been really good and really insightful, mate, and exciting as well. So it's good. Yeah. So looking forward to our old friend Ghosty coming on and Craig. That'd be really good. But obviously, as we said in the thumbnail, as we said in the description, it's about Gini Wijnaldum. So obviously, there's been talk since Gini's left, mate, about what's his reasons for leaving, what's his reasons for not signing the new contract. Yeah, it's been a weird one, hasn't it, mate? But he's finally come out and said his reasons why. So a couple of quotes I'll pull from the article. One, he said he didn't feel loved and appreciated by some during his time at the club. There was a moment when I didn't feel loved and appreciated, not by my teammates, not the people at Melwood. From them, I know I can say they all love me and I love them. It was not from that side, more the other side. I have to say there also was a lot on social media. When it went bad, I was the player who they blamed, and that's why I wanted to leave. Well, one of the reasons. Every day in training in the games, I gave everything I had to bring it to a good end because during the years, Liverpool meant so much to me and because of the way the fans in the stadium were treating me. So, Mick, before we move on to a little bit more, one of the main quotes out of that was his feeling towards the fans in the stadium and the fans on social media were 2 different kinds. But your initial reaction on what Gini said as a whole?
Well, I mean, obviously, before I read because obviously they phrase it in a way where it's clickbaity, the article for a start, you've got to read it, because I think my initial reaction was like, well, why is he taking that into proper account? And I don't think he fully, once you read it, I don't think he fully blames, obviously, the social media side of it, which obviously it was a big part of it, because like I said, there was no fans in the stadium, so he wasn't getting that weekly, I don't know, like appraisal for how good he's doing. He wasn't getting that on a weekly basis, going out like fans cheering what he's doing and getting that output from the fans like he usually does. So he was missing that part of it. But yeah, I think he was obviously just citing it as a reason why it was kind of like, well, it was maybe my time to leave and whatever, and he thought maybe that best to go because maybe FSG weren't going to offer him a new contract because he's getting over 30 and whatever else. So it's probably a whole host of things, maybe even stuff that he hasn't mentioned. But yeah, it's just a bit mad that, in my opinion, I just thought it was a bit mad that he's took that into account. Like, I know you can't not, if you've got a massive platform like he has, he's got people commenting on his stuff, and I've seen screenshots of it. It's absolutely fucking horrendous, and it's the same for a lot of, obviously, if you're in the public eye, you do get that, which is a shame, and it does open up the wider question about social media, and obviously it does need to be sorted in the future in terms of how it's policed and whatever else. And I don't even know if that's going to be possible. I honestly don't. But maybe there's steps that need to be taken that can be brought in where it is a bit more policed. But yeah, it is a shame that the world that we live in, and we are kind of dominated by social media, and it is a shame that part of it, and it is a very, very bad part of Twitter, especially, that is a dark area, that like a cesspit, and there's a lot of people in there that just do a lot of negative stuff, and it's horrible. So I know we don't get much of it because we're only a fairly small channel at the minute, but we do get some where you're just like, why? Like, we've had people come in the comments and do stuff like that, and you're thinking, why did they do that? But and then for someone of Wijnaldum's stature, you've magnified that 100 million times, there's going to be a massive chunk of people there just kind of just give him a load of shit for nothing. And like you said in his interview, like he was going through the pain barrier and making himself available all the time, and he's wondering why he's getting all these questions asked of him. So there's a lot in there that you think, right, I understand this, and it's a shame that it had to come to that and he had to leave.
Yeah, I mean, we were all gutted that he left, mate, at the end of the day, weren't we? I know some weren't, but for me, this goes back even further. So I look at the summer after we won the league. He was getting quite a bit of abuse after that because of a certain other player that was linked to come in the club. And I even then, Gini Wijnaldum was getting quite a bit of hate, especially after the season that he had. He was one of the biggest names, if not one of the first names on the team sheet for us winning the league. So again, he got overlooked, and it's happened again. He seemed to be like a bit of a scapegoat, didn't he? And he was right with what he said, because there was certain elements that he was the player that got picked on a lot. I mean, I know Salah would get a little bit when he'd miss a couple of chances, but then he'd put another 3 away. Do you know what I mean? So, whereas the Wijnaldum thing, a lot of people went hot and cold with him, didn't they? And it was a bit unfair.
Yeah, I think I completely understand the whole scapegoat thing, because, like I said, there was always stuff like, obviously, when Alisson, like a small example, when Alisson scored that header, and I think we'd done a reaction and we were kind of like, why didn't he celebrate? Why isn't he going over? And it's those things like that where we were like, oh, is his head not there and whatever else? And maybe it wasn't, but that was just another little bit that people used to have a go at him, that he didn't seem like he was mentally with the squad and whatever else. But you don't really realise what's going on behind the scenes. Like, he's having, I don't know, playing for the pain barrier and whatever else to keep himself on the field and whatever. So
yeah,
like we done that video, didn't we, when he left, saying that after this 5 years, like he's gonna go down as a legend, and he will, for what he's produced for us over those years. Like you said, he was one of those signings that kind of started to creep us up that ladder to getting to where we needed to be. And over the last 3 years, what we've won is just unbelievable. Like the goals that he's scored as well. So for that, we shake his hand and say thank you. But it is a bit of a shame that this is the reasons that have came out are what they are. But like I said, we're hoping this can be a positive thing in a way, that we can this can go down as like, well, Wijnaldum left for not for just for the social media reason, but that was part of it. And maybe more players will come out in the future, and the conversation on the ball might start get rolling in terms of how do we fix this, if it is even fixable.
No, it's a good point that you raised, mate, because I generally don't think that's the reason why he's left Liverpool. Absolutely not. That's just a completely separate issue is the reason why. I could understand why it's affected him, because I think anybody who's been victim of social media abuse can put themselves in his situation. And again, I'll speak quite openly about it on here, mate, because I think it's relevant. Because I was so protective of Gini Wijnaldum after that season that we'd won the league, I hated the fact that he was getting so much abuse and people just couldn't see what he'd done and how appreciative of him. So the whole Thiago video, the whole incident where I apparently said that nobody knew who Thiago was, a 5-minute conversation protecting Gini Wijnaldum turned into a 12-second clip of that. And I got hounded and absolutely hounded with abuse from people with non-profile pictures, people with fake names. People targeted my son. People called me a nonce for having a picture with my son of my Twitter profile, which I then stopped having for a while, all because I was saying about, why are we talking about Thiago when we don't even have him yet? Let's continue to talk about Gini. Why are we slagging off Gini Wijnaldum just for the sake of getting in a new signing? Stop trying to fit your agenda of getting rid of someone just to get Thiago. And we'll probably get Thiago anyway and have both of them in the squad. Why can't we have that? That was the dream, which we did have for a season. And I got absolutely crushed for it. And I spoke to you quite a bit of times, didn't I? Saying like, I'm done now. I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to, crack on with the podcast anymore. I don't want to put a detriment to you or my work with Redmen. I hated it. And I thought, right, I'll finish. But then I thought, well, why should I do that? Because there's plenty of people that watch our show and watch Redmen that I've appreciated my views and stuff, and I have a good laugh with a lot of people that are here. And I thought, well, no, they can piss off to all the people that haven't got a fucking profile picture for it. And don't get me wrong, it still affects me when people have a go at me for it and they don't see the full picture. I mean, I understand how bad it sounded for that 12 seconds. It is fucking horrible. And again, it's not how it was, you know what I mean? But did I deserve all that fucking hate just for the sake of protecting Wijnaldum? Absolutely not. And it's an absolute joke that people would, I mean, even when you put in Twitter, Gini, get out of my club, up until the West Brom game, everyone was still giving him crap because they knew he was leaving. And it was sad to see. It really was. And I don't care who you are, whether you're a millionaire footballer or you're an average Joe on the street or a bald-headed bearded git who does a podcast, it's going to affect you. No matter what abuse you get, it's going to affect you, isn't it?
Definitely, because like you said, I wasn't going to bring that up until you did, but that the stuff that you went through just over that was absolutely horrendous. It really was. Like the comments you was reading, and like I put a little tweet out like saying like this has been to help. Like there's people coming to your defence, but it shouldn't have to resort to that because someone's thought, oh, this little 12-second clip will make him look like an absolute dickhead, and let's just hound them and see what happens. And it's that mob mentality where all the little gimps on Twitter with no Twitter profile start jumping on it, and it's like it's just a dark place. It really is. That like when Liverpool are doing well, and that like the Reds are smashing it, and we're like doing well in the league, and we're winning games. Twitter is like a boss, like it's a boss place because everyone's like happy and there's like everyone's getting on with each other. But like when Liverpool do, like draw a game or lose one or don't sign someone that we weren't even probably in equation for, it's a dark place, and even stuff like that, like you said, mention Thiago and Gini, like stuff like that, like you shouldn't even, it shouldn't have even been a conversation really. You were just making like a bit of a throwaway comment about like FIFA players and wanting like brand new shiny toys and whatever, and people just took that and thought,
how often do people use that now? How often
Exactly.
do you see people using FIFA Twitter and get back off FIFA, get back playing football? Exactly. How often do people use it now? And every time I see it, I go, oh, fucking hell. Do you know what I mean? It's hilarious. But again, when it came out, when the Gini Wijnaldum comment came out, and that was one of the reasons why, I didn't feel like euphoric. I felt sad because I thought, well, my point that I made last year is absolutely true. Do you know what I mean? It's really, really unfair. And again, don't get me wrong, I still reckon there's an element of Wijnaldum probably wanted more money, and the club are not looking at doing that for a player of his age. And I do understand where both parties are coming from. Wijnaldum would have thought that, yeah, I do deserve money after what I've done, absolutely. But then the club are looking, well, this is what we do for the future, and it is a very awkward. I'm glad it's not a job that I have to do, because it's horrible. Because whatever decision you make, it's their fault. So us not signing Wijnaldum to a new contract, FSG are a piece of shit and all that sort of stuff, and that's what's being said. And it's just you're either in or out, aren't you, Mick? And you can't win in either situation, can you?
No, you can't. And like I say, it is a shame. But like I said, the money thing, like maybe Barca didn't have enough money, because I think obviously they're in a lot of financial worries, aren't they? Maybe didn't get quite the money there. I mean, he's not going to come out in an interview, is he, and go, Liverpool wouldn't offer me a contract and Barca couldn't afford me, but PSG could, so that's why I went there. He's not going to be that candid, is he? Let's be honest. There's going to be other motives in there that he's not mentioned, but which aren't like, it's not you've got to think of yourself as well. Clearly, if he wants to keep progressing, like he signed for a club that building the squad to try and win the Champions League. So it's not like he's left for maybe a worse team who've got loads of money in the bank and paying whatever, like maybe in China or clubs like that, where he could prolong his career, get loads of money in the bank, and then just kind of wade through. Like in an average league, he's gone to maybe PSG and the French league isn't the best league, but they've got aspirations to win the best trophies in the world in the Champions League. So he's gone there to try and do that. So. Yeah, fair play to him. But I mean, it is just a shame that we didn't get any money for him. That's the only business side for us. We didn't get any money from that. That's the only thing that does my head in a little bit, because we could have got a fair chunk for him and put that back into the squad, because as we know, the FSG model is we do need to recoup some money before we do go back into the market. So that would have helped us big time. But yeah, it is. I mean, we just have to move on, don't we? And just hope that, this is just one of them things where it doesn't happen again. And obviously the Hendo stuff that's come out recently, which me and you have talked about, and personally we haven't talked about it on here really, but which is another example of we don't want, we can use the Wijnaldum and spin it into a positive, that we can't let this type of thing happen again. We need to get these players. I mean, FSG maybe don't want to give players over 30 a big contract, but when it comes to your talisman and your captain who's been in for 10 years and been through the ultimate fairy tale story, there's no way you can let him go. Like all the stuff they've done recently with Super League and that, I think if they would just literally go and no, we're not going to tie Hendo down for a new contract because he's over 30, there would be it would be a shitstorm.
Well, yeah, I mean, there has been, hasn't there? Because all it's taken is one little leak that contract talks are stalled, or it depends on what adjective you use, because it will throw social media into disarray. So, for example, there hasn't been anything where talks have broken down. That's not happened. It's just talks have been delayed or talks haven't happened. But we've had Jordan Henderson going away with the Euros. I say going away, he only went to Rome. But and then we've had him, he's on holiday. You know, he's not even back yet. So there's still a lot to be sorted out. Jordan Henderson has never made anything about his contract ever since the only time it was ever talked about was when Jordan Henderson was probably going to leave the club to go to Fulham, when he came out and said, I don't want to go. So I've got no worries about Jordan Henderson leaving. I think everybody should realise that, and for the reasons that you mentioned, mate, he's a talisman for this club. He's not going anywhere. He's just, he's not even had his testimonial yet, which is now due. It's not going to happen. But people need to stop losing the shit. But like I said, the Wijnaldum domino effect is having an effect on it, hasn't it? But again, you've got two players there. That Henderson is, British lad. It's very rare that British players go abroad anyway. He's made a great career at Liverpool. He's only missing one trophy out of his collection, which we pray he can fulfil, which is the FA Cup. I'd love a good crack at the FA Cup, I really would. But like you said before, mate, you've got Wijnaldum, who was at Newcastle, went to the project that is Liverpool, done everything, and gone, right, what's the next project? He said he did want to stay, but a lot of players say that they want to stay. A lot of players say that. But he in his press conference with Gini, with Paris, and the subsequent interviews are going to go, he's like, yeah, I'm glad to be here for the new challenge, I'm happy for it, blah, blah, blah. That's what foreign players do, mate, and they have every right to do that. And like you said before, mate, if he becomes part of this squad that wins the European Cup for PSG, he'll be on another level of legendary status, won't he, for that club as well as he is for us.
Yeah, and it's also like I said, he's going to be 31 in November. We know how good he is attacking wise. Like he done it for it was a PSV. Then he was attacking midfielder for Newcastle. So he came to Liverpool with that type of pedigree, and he's had to kind of abandon all of that because he's such a good footballer, all rounder, that he settled to play off the left side of a three and kind of just be like that. Yeah, that little staple defensive person for Robbo to bomb on forward and allow the formation that Klopp likes to flourish. So he done that to the detriment of himself, and I think that shows just what a player and a man Gini Wijnaldum is, that he was willing to do that for the team, to go on and win all those trophies that we have. And I think that's the best way you can put it, really, that he is that type of player and type of man that he'll take away what he got, his own maybe better abilities that maybe in his head thinks are better, like getting forward into the box and banging goals in and whatever, like he does for Holland and whatever else, and that he might go and do for PSG. Like I think even before all this contract stuff happened, I remember me and you talking about it and saying that he might want to leave and go and do that. He might want to go and play for a different club and have a fresh set of fresh teammates and a fresh challenge, and maybe play a different position and, like I said, get in the box, score some goals. And he didn't really get to do that for Liverpool, so we can't blame him for wanting to maybe go and do that after giving 5 years of great service to us. And like you said, he's not a local lad, and he's not from England, and that kind of, you've got to factor that in. Like there's no like real dedication for him to stick around. Obviously he's been here for a long time and he loves the club and whatever else, and you could see that it was that last game of the season, like that really got to him, and he really appreciated the fans being there, which was great that we got to give him that send-off. But he had no real ties to us apart from that. He came in, done his job, he was always professional, always great, he always done well for us, gave us so many memorable moments and memorable games and memorable trophies, and we shake his hand and go, nice one for all that, Gini, and off you go and try a new league. But yeah, all this thing is it's a bit mad. Like, to be honest, I've found it all a bit bizarre, the whole reasoning behind it and whatever else. And there's, like I said, there's probably more in there that we don't know. So maybe maybe when he's retired, we might find out a bit more. But I don't imagine we'll hear more on it than we have.
No, I don't think we will, mate. Well, that was just going about being my next question. I think that this is the only reason we're not going to get anything else. I don't think. I think he's too professional. And he's got too many good relationships at Liverpool to call out anybody from the owners or anybody from a contract situation. I don't think he does that. I don't think he's that type of person. like you just said, we might get in Gini Wijnaldum's book if he ever writes one. So subscribe to the Cover Podcast. In about 15 years, we'll do an episode of the book room on Gini Wijnaldum's book. Yeah, nice one. But yeah, I think I just want to circle back, mate, because there's been another thing about Carragher, hasn't there, about what he said about he's not buying it in a way. I mean, a lot of people aren't, to be fair, they're not buying these reasons, this, that, the other, like what we've just discussed. But also as well, it's the fact that he's saying, just delete the app or just remove yourself from it and this, that, the other. I understand where Carragher's coming from because, again, a lot of people said that to me when I was getting 300k views on that shitty video and getting abused. Some people said to me, just delete the app. It's like, well, why should I? I like interacting with the people that I interact with. We have regular people in our comments and who I speak to a lot on Twitter and good friends. And, I'd happily have a pint with these people and I trust them. And why should I remove myself from that friendship circle? Yes, you can hit the block button and stuff like that, but where do you stand on that? Because I don't necessarily agree with what Cara said there, because I think it still affects you, doesn't it? And he's been the victim of it as well.
Yeah, I understand both. I mean, I know Carragher's, it's either his views are like it's black and white, isn't it? It's either one or the other, but there's a grey area where like you can delete the app, but like Gini is like he's a person that likes to interact with the fans. Like he's always been posting stuff on social media when he's been at the club. So it's not like you've left, now delete the app, or because we have got no fans in the stadium to show the real love, delete the app because the fans on social media are bad. Like you shouldn't have to resort to that level of like policing yourself just because you got your team's going through a bad patch or whatever else. You shouldn't have to do that. So I mean, he could have done that. He could have just like deactivated or whatever. And if he would have, there would have been no. You would have understood completely because you see the screenshots of what was getting posted after the game. Maybe if we'd lost 6 at home at Anfield and we were all going, "What the fuck is going on with the Reds here?" And they were all probably getting it. I think Neil Williams deactivated for a bit, didn't he? Where he was getting a load of grief. So it happens to them all. And I'm not saying that's normal or that's acceptable because it's fucking completely not. It's abhorrent and it shouldn't even be happening. But there is people and there's a section on Twitter that do that. But yeah, like he wants to keep social media. That's fine. But for me, like mentioning it in his interview, and I know that wasn't the sole reason. I think you can look at it whatever way you want, but I just wish that he wouldn't have looked at it like that. I was hoping that maybe he'd think, well, this surely is not the true reflection of Liverpool fans. The true reflection is when I go to Anfield and I get me sung and I get cheered when I come off as a sub or on as a sub and stuff like that. But you can see why, because there was no fans there, and I understand that. Like after every game, say especially if you're losing, you go on Twitter and it's like human nature though, isn't it? You go on Twitter, you have a look, see what the fans are saying to see if there's any positivity, and probably at that time and during that period there was absolutely fucking none, because we weren't very good and we were just really struggling with no fans in the stadium. So yeah, I mean, I don't completely agree with Carragher on that, because I think he's had abuse as well, so I don't know why you should have to resort to something so drastic as that. So yeah, it's a bit of a mad one, really.
It is, mate. It is, and I can see both sides of the coin with it. I really can, but I don't think it's not. Gini Wijnaldum wants to interact with people who give him that support, and there's no reason why he should be deleting the app. But it's really not fair, the abuse that he got for the best part of a year and a bit, especially with, like you said, mate, at the beginning, the serving that he's been. It's just unfair, really. So yeah. So can you still hear me, mate? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just. There was a mad plane going over my head, so I was like, "I'll mute now, just so it doesn't."
I know. I was like,
down your ear.
I was thinking to myself, where's he gone? Can't even fucking breathing down my ears. But we'll just go into some of the comments as well. So Ant says, Gini was unbelievable, yet some so-called fans wax lyrical about people that can't even play back-to-back games. Yeah, spot on there, mate. And he's then added, glad Twitter wasn't around when we were absolutely shite. Yeah, oh my God. I think that's a really, really good point, isn't it, Mick? Because there's quite a lot of fans that have started supporting Liverpool over like the last couple of years, which is fair enough. That's okay. People join the club at certain times, but I don't believe that if you're gonna support the club over the last couple of years and then really dig into the team when you didn't go through like sort of the darker times, as people like to call it, it's not that bad, guys. You know what I mean? It has been a lot worse, hasn't it, Mick? So I think it's a good point. I think everyone probably would have deleted Twitter during the Hodgson era, wouldn't they?
Wow, yeah. But then it's nice to have people that maybe if they're posting something and like they're thinking, oh, it can't be any worse than this, and maybe they don't know. It's nice that there's people on Twitter that can correct them and go, look at this team we had when back in fucking 11 years ago, it was absolutely horrific, and we were just really, really bad at footy back then, and we had a manager that just wasn't the right fit at the right time, and it was just like fucking hell. So we've came along,
and it makes you appreciate this, doesn't it? You have come a long way, mate, and it makes you appreciate this, like not doing what we should have in the league last year. I mean, God knows how we still finished third. It still baffles me that. But the fact that we had that pretty poor season, yes, off the back of winning the league title, but lots of circumstances which we won't go into. But at the end of the day, last season it wasn't that bad for us. You know what I mean? It wasn't like it's just like, oh, we'll just pause it. Now we'll start again this year. So Zubin on YouTube as well said fans forget that there was a slight chance that players actually do read comments about their performance and are human enough to get affected. Fans find trashing funny for some weird reason. It's sad. It is. All it does is it takes that said footballer to go onto Twitter, go in the search bar, type their name in, and they will find good and bad. And it can absolutely ruin your mind. It really can. It's just ridiculous. And Dicko's put quite a bit in the comments regarding Everton. So Everton have won the Florida Cup overnight. So there's a power shift for the billionaires. I did find that funny, mate. Congratulations to Everton on winning that. The billionaires winning the Florida Cup against the made-up team, and they think it's the end of the trophy drought. I have seen some things like that where people have to reset the clock, but yeah, we're not counting it. So they still won't remove the cuckoo clock out of there either. What else have we got in here? David Rolland has said, "All right, lads, who's going to pre-season friendlies at Anfield?" We're not, mate. Because I think it's only right that people who don't usually get the chance to go to Anfield because of the member sale, we know how ridiculously hard it is to get a ticket. I think gives more people more opportunities because we'll be going on our first year of games next season. So we won't be there for their friendlies, but anyone who's going, please do enjoy it. And if it'll be your first time at Anfield, my God, guys, you're in for a fucking treat. 1892 Reds podcast, hey boys. He said, not Gini's biggest fan. Okay, I'm just gonna swallow that one. But fuck me, no way does he deserve to get what he did under his post, and Carra should have worded it better. Yeah, I agree with that, mate. I think he should have definitely worded it better as well. Ansbeth just seen the other crowd parade the flag up down County Road. I can't believe I'm missing that. I hope someone's covering that so I can watch the trophy parade as well. Dugout said Gini scored so many important goals for us: Borough, Spurs away, Barcelona, Cardiff, etc. Absolutely, yeah. Totally agree. I think the Middlesbrough goal was the catalyst to what a lot of the stuff happened the following seasons subsequently as well. And Doug said, United fans getting excited over Varane coming, and I was worried until I realised that the Norwegian PE teacher is in charge as well. And then obviously Answer's comment on the Hodgson as well, getting slapped at Goodison by Paul Konchesky, Poulsen and Voronin. Yeah, of course, mate, those were some dark signings, weren't they? But we've come through the end of that now where, Mick Klopp just usually does get his transfers right, and we'll finish on this segment now. And thanks, Sant, because that's really jogged my memory on that one, mate. Obviously it's transfer season, mate. It's silly season. I don't like tweeting about transfers because I just think it's absolutely stupid. You're just going to give yourself an aneurysm. You're going to give yourself an headache. There's no point looking what other clubs are doing compared to Liverpool. Don't get on the owner's back, because every time we've signed someone, Mick, 9 times out of 10 with Klopp, it's worked out, hasn't it? I know that is really crap maths, but what I'm saying is it's very rare that Edwards, FSG under Klopp get a signing wrong, right?
Yeah, well, 60% of the time it works all the time. If you want to start
getting
but yeah,
I like it.
They're usually spot on, aren't they? And I mean, I understand people thinking maybe, is it feasible to keep doing that as a business model? But I think it is if there's the right amount of scouting gone into them. And I think we've been like signed Robbo. Like, I mean, you always put like a nice little tweet up, don't you, when it's like Robbo's 4-year anniversary or whatever. And that's what they said.
Fun, that. It's a bit of fun.
But that's like that is the accurate representation of what, like when we were like with Jared Bowen last week, for example. Those tweets that you were posting about Robbo going, oh, average, oh, he's shit, oh, why are we signing a relegated left back, oh, and like just people saying all kinds of different stuff. You can just copy and paste that for the next player that we're going to sign. And then what, in a year's time, if he does well, you then thinking, oh, actually that model does work. But then if the year after that we signed another player in a similar vein, it would happen again, and it would keep happening again and again and again. And it's like, well, Klopp has got obviously a very good system in place with how he does things, and it's not even like how he's doing it now just because we haven't got enough money or whatever, which we do need to recoup some money, and I think we have with Harry Wilson and Grealish and whoever else leaving. But he done it at Dortmund as well. He signed names that weren't household names, but he made them into what they were because he considered himself more as a coach than a manager, I think. So he likes to train the players, and he can. Go on, sorry.
Sorry, mate. I was just going to say, it doesn't help, does it, when you're watching Manchester United, who obviously haven't done well in the league over the last few years, and they're laying down 70-odd million on Jadon Sancho, which is obviously he's one of the biggest names in world football right now, and it's sort of like, well, I want that one. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love Jadon Sancho at the club, of course I would, but the way Man United's model is they've still consistently going into debt. When you look back at Manchester United's transfers over the last 6 or 7 years, I mean, to be fair, mainly since the Glazers have come back in, it's very rare that they lay down that amount of money on a player. I mean, you can look at Pogba, and then you look at Lukaku a couple of years later, but then they sold Lukaku, they lost money. They lost money on Alexis Sanchez as well, and they tend to then go, right, well, they don't have a sell to buy model. Well, technically they do. They just sell the next summer, and then you don't see that big name coming in the following year. They don't do a big name every single year, which is what people think that they do. When you look at the transfer history, whenever they've signed a big player or a big transfer fee, it's either the next window or the window after that where they've gone, right, we need to get rid of quite a bit to recuperate quite a bit of money. So it's never as black and white as you think, is it, mate? But that adds to the pressure of, FSG have won all these trophies. They've got all this prize money, this, that, and the other. But where's all the money? And put your hand in your pocket and don't buy your missus some new tits, or don't buy you a new yacht, which is just absolutely fucking ridiculous comments. But that pressure's there, isn't it? And it's not nice to see that. But again, like you said, mate, it doesn't go down to that model, does it? But then we lay down 60 million on Alisson. So what happens then?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know as well. Like, there's been quite a lot of rumours on like Sky Sports and whatever I looked at today, like what's going on with Pogba. Like they'll obviously know what's going on with him. They might think, right, he's definitely going to go next year, and he's going to go for fucking top money, isn't he? Let's be honest, he's going to go for probably maybe over 100 mil. So the money they've spent. Yeah, well, I know, well, exactly. But he will, won't he? He'll probably go to PSG or whatever, fucking mega money. And it's like, well, they're thinking, well, bring Sancho in. If he goes for 100 mil, we're still 30 mil up there. But it's just a year after, like you said, it's still the same. But it's not like the way we're doing at the minute, where we're getting some money in. And obviously with the homegrown quota and foreign players and whatever else, you need to be spot on these days with how many you've got in your squad. So you need to be quite good at how you do it. And yeah, I completely understand why people were fuming about Sancho. I've loved to have been in a conversation for him because he's a good player. He's got like 10 years career left. Good price for today's footy. Like, that's like not bad for a player who could be one of the best. He could be, like, fair play to them for getting him. I would have loved him to come to Liverpool, because imagine him like with the ceiling that he's already got, and then put him under Klopp as well. That ceiling almost doubles, in my opinion, under Jurgen Klopp. So yeah, it's a bit frustrating, and especially like when you look at their defence. I think that was the thing I'm always looking at. Like when you've got Lindelof there, I think if you take Lindelof out and you go Maguire and Varane, it does look a lot stronger. And I think 30 odd mil for Varane. Yeah, I think he's 28, so I think maybe getting him at a good time but it's not like we've done with Kanate, where we've got a 22-year-old then going, right, there's next 8 years there, and he's learning under Klopp, he's learning with Van Dijk and whatever. We can kind of mould him into what we want, and we can have him for a long time, not just 2 to 3 years. And I think that's where they're probably looking now. Obviously, Sancho's a bit younger, but defence-wise, they needed to sort that out and get that sorted first. So I understand why people are getting a bit annoyed with it, because it's like you don't want to see your rivals going out and signing like actually solid players that you think, well, like maybe Varane 2-3 years ago. I mean, I don't rate him that highly. I think he's a good defender. I don't think he's one of the best in the world. Maybe if they would have signed him 2-3 years ago, I would have been like, oh shit, they've got Varane when he's 25. Like, now that he's 28, he's in his prime, isn't he, technically? So, I mean, like Doug said in the comments, though, it does depend on who your manager is. Like, and I know, like, I understand on the flip side of that, if you've got good and that many. Once you get to a limit where you've got so many good players, surely it's going to just gel. And if your manager's obviously got half a brain, which obviously Ole's, he's not a bad manager, is he? But he's just, I think there's a lot of just taking the piss out of him because he, like you said, Norwegian PE teacher. But yeah, I'll stop rambling.
Well, Mick, I just want to thank you for joining the Man United podcast. I'm joking. So I just going to throw a couple of names on you before we finish, mate. Still sticking with the transfer bit. Obviously, news has come out today that Shaqiri has made it be known to the owners now that he does want to go. I think it's been on the cards for a while, hasn't it? Given how many limited amount of games he's had. There's no concrete official name going through of which team he's going to go to, but we should get a little bit of money for him. We should make a profit on that 13 million that we signed him for. Try and quick 60 seconds on Shaqiri, mate. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Yeah,
gonna miss your calves.
Yeah, I think this one was just inevitable, wasn't it? It was always gonna. I think he's a good player in that, but you just think. Like Elliott's come into the squad, and I think even in I know it's only pre-season, but he looks really good. He's playing in that midfield role. He looks solid there, and he's English. He's very young. He's got a lot of time to gel into the role. And I think maybe if you keep Shaq around, does it limit Elliott's appearances? I don't know. It could do. So I understand the reasoning behind it. I think it's the three that I was thinking of is Shaq, Minamino, and Origi. I think they're pretty much all in the same ballpark in terms of. Are they going to stick around or not? And I think obviously over the coming weeks we'll see. Maybe only Shaq will leave and we'll keep the other two. Who knows? But I think we do need to recoup a bit more money and see who we can get in.
But yeah, like Shaqiri will just go again. We'll go with the shaking hands and there'll be no animosity there or anything like that. Will there? Ant's just put in the comments, mate, just on this one. West Ham are apparently interested in Chamberlain. Would you sell him?
I don't think I would personally. I think again, looking at training, he does look sharp and whatever, and he's kind of trying to learn that false nine role, isn't he? Like he's played there twice now in the friendlies and whatever. But I just think he can play that role and can play in midfield. I think obviously he does pick up injuries, which is, it's a shame for him. But then it's hard for us as well because we can't really rely on him fully because he hasn't got that durability to stay fit for a long period of time. So I wouldn't sell him this year. I think keep him around and obviously see what happens. But I think if it's another season again the same, I think same goes for Keita as well. To be honest, I think they, like I said, I bracket together Origi, Shaq and Minamino. I'd bracket Ox and Keita as well in the same bit. Like this is like probably like a broken record. I've probably been saying this for years on end. About these two, but this is like make or break. I think for this season for them, I think they need to really show what they can do, and I understand why there's a lot of fucking negativity around that sentence being uttered because why are you thinking about that? Because they've proved in the past that they're not durable enough and they're bound to break down. And any time you've any positivity about either of those two on Twitter, there's a comment underneath, undoubtedly going, yeah, but then he gets a hammy injury in 5 minutes after that. Which I understand. It's like a running joke now about those two because you're just waiting for the next breakdown, and you're like, you don't want it to happen, but you know it's gonna, and you kind of just you almost toying with yourself, going, should we just cut our losses, get someone in who's going to actually stay fit, or do you keep them round because they're good fellas and they're good players? Like they're obviously both really good players, so. Yeah, make or break this time for them. And then I think, well, I've said it now, so next year I can't say this again. If I say it next year, then I'm obviously just chatting major shit. But what do you reckon about Ox? Do you reckon it's time
for me, the Ox, it's like, because we've seen the player that he was in 17-18 and how good he was for Liverpool, it was like, we want that player to come back again. But again, he's just been dogged with injuries and it is such a shame. And I think we all just clam into that's the player we want back. We really want him to be that player again. And maybe that train sailed now. And see what Austin Powers referenced there, train sailed. Maybe it's gone too far because we've moved on as a squad. We've moved on as a team now. Klopp has his formation. But again, if Ox wants to stick around, he knows he's probably going to have to be that. He's not going to start games. You have to be that impact player. And impact players usually have to fill a gap. And if he's going to fill a gap in midfield, or he's going to fill a gap as a false nine, or he's going to fill a gap on the wing, he's going to have to deal with it. And I think that's the player he's going to be now, is an impact player. 60 minutes, maybe 55, 70, 80, whatever it's going to be. I don't think he's going to be a starter unless, I'm not even saying it. Not even going to go there with injuries. I'm not even going to fucking say it. But that's his role now. And I think he'll want to stick around with the club because I think he likes it. And again, his personal circumstances, he needs to be settled, given what his personal circumstances are at the minute. So his missus being pregnant, just in case anybody didn't know. You don't want to uproot anybody who's pregnant. And anybody who's a dad out there knows you just don't uproot your pregnant missus. Just don't do it. So for me, I'd still keep him. In the short answer is absolutely I'd keep him for now because I think what Ant said, if we're getting rid of like the likes of Shaq, if Minamino does go, Wilson, Gruitch, if they go, then we've cleared out quite a bit of wage. We've cleared out, quite a people off. I'm nearly going to say the roster. Then Vinny would kill me. We've cleared out quite a few people off the squad. It leaves the room. It keeps the space in. It keeps the homegrown quota. Like 1892 said earlier, mate. So yeah, I'd definitely keep him. So mate, we've done 40 minutes there, which is longer than I thought we'd do, but I like it. I love the comments. The comments has kept it going, which I really appreciate. Mick, what have you got coming up on the podcast this week?
So we've got a chat with Paul Ghost on Wednesday. I'll probably do that live at about 5:30 on Wednesday. So I'll have a little chat with Ghosty about. I haven't checked if I'm calling Ghosty live on air, but I might just introduce him as Ghosty.
Let's just start doing. We know him well enough. We know him well enough.
Yeah, so I'll be chatting to him about Shaq and whatever else, and obviously, hopefully, there might be some more movement by then as well. And then Friday we've got Craig Hanan on to have a little chat about. Obviously, the Reds play on Thursday, so we can do a little review of the Hertha Berlin game, and obviously the news that came out today about Verge maybe playing 20 minutes, which is like, I read that and I was like, I felt like a kid on Christmas Day. I was like, he's actually coming back. So, and then Gomez might be back for the game after. So it's looking positive at the minute. So yeah, I'll be chatting to them. I mean, you can come on if you want, Jay. Obviously, there's
thanks.
There's always a space for you, lad.
Oh, fucking thanks, mate. Yeah, I'll see if I can pop on one of them. But you know me, mate. I'm bogged down in a couple of other projects for us at the minute, Anna. I'm currently working on episode 2 of Copyright Origins. For those of you that haven't seen episode 1 with Patrick Berger, this man here, get it watched because once it goes over 1,000 views, I will be announcing who episode 2 is. So I'll let you know about that.
I think you're on 920. I think you're on now. Last time I checked yesterday, it might be close to that, but.
Best get cracking then, and get this video fucking finished. So doing that, and obviously I am currently working on the story of A Crew as well. So I'm really, really looking forward to sharing this with you guys. This has been a project that is obviously close to my heart because of how much I love the shirts, but also as well, it's grown to be something a lot bigger than I thought it would be in terms of like the contribution and the stories that we're getting. So looking forward to putting that together as well. I've got no time frame when that's going to come out, but I'm still conducting interviews for that as well. So it's looking really good, but excited to share that with you. And also on that as well, I'm going to put a plea out now. I'll put a tweet out anyway. I'm thinking of a different thing for the credits. Now, if anybody's got any photographs of them as a kid, or even as an adult, it's a nice picture with this official shirt, do send me them and send them to my Twitter or the Copyrights Twitter if you want to be part of the credits, because it's a little project that I'm going to work on. So if you have got any photographs of you as a kid in your recruit stuff or your training stuff, or even if you've got something from that 96 era and you've got a little photograph, you don't mind sharing it, let me know, because we've got a nice little thing to finish it off with as well. So yeah, looking forward to that. Guys, so that was it. That's a great episode of Copyright Podcast. It was nice to be back on the show with Mick. I'm look forward to Mick shows this week for the transfers. And yeah, let's just keep positive about the Reds because pre-season starting. Oh my God, Virgil's going to be back with his knees. Love it.